What's up, gang? Cousin Justin here.
Thanks, world.
That wasn't how I was going to start it, but that works.
I figured I'd kick it that way.
Well, it's hilarious. You know, dude, sometimes in a remote world, we just kind of have to be together. We're lucky that we're really close and that we live proximal to each other, because some days are really just hard to do things in remote. And one of the things that we're trying to do is ship a product together. And so it's really hard to kind of go back and forth through Slack or have some meetings or whatever to try and get the vision across, trying to get our point across about what we're trying to do. So we decided to come together today, which is always a fun time. We try to do that at least once a month. But specifically today, how did we spend our time together?
So today we just fired up the app and went screen by screen and fixed bug by bug. So the way that we kind of do this is, you know, right before you're going to launch a product, especially one of your own, a ton of features have just like gotten thrown together. And there were a whole bunch of UX things from us dogfooding our product that all kind of piled up into a list of items between Slack, between the Kanban board, just little things here and there. And really we decided you almost take all of that and you just toss it out and you use every single screen, every single action of the app. You run through it, you feel the flow, you do it together. I mean, the way I kind of describe it is like, you know, like art class in high school or something like, you know, like you're all just like working at the table together. We just sit here piece by piece, fix each bug, squash. Nothing makes it to the board. You basically don't move forward until you've squashed the bug or fixed the UX issue. And you do it there and you have the debate and you fix, and you have the debate and you fix.
And I'm always trying to stay like a little step ahead of you. So while you're actually in the code fixing the problem, I've moved on to the next screen to try and figure out what's the next piece that we need to resolve. And so tell me a little bit about how are we doing, like, are we merging one little task at a time? Like how are we building this? Did you do like one giant pull request and like now you just pushing 50 different features in one big file? Like, how are you deploying the changes? Because I don't even know what you did.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll break off an epic branch, what I call an epic branch. So I usually like to name the branches of my pull requests after the thing I'm working on. Usually it'll be like feature slash or chore slash or bug slash. In something like this, I break off an epic branch and I call it just like something general. UX fixes, maybe I'll throw a date, because I do just make one big pull request. It is the type of thing where we are actively reviewing and pushing together. So if I was pair programming with somebody, basically, we would push to the pull request, but we would be code reviewing as we went. We would be, you know, right now I don't have another programmer here, but really, if we did, that was how I do it. My pair programmer is really Claude, and I'm reviewing, and for everything we find, I'm running a strict TDD flow. My first piece is in plan mode. I want you to write a test to replicate the bug. So I replicate every bug we've experienced with an automated test. Those tests should all fail. Then we have a fix. And again, once again, using Claude Code, using an agent, pushing the fixes, watching those tests pass. And then I'm going into the UX and I'm checking, and then you're checking also to make sure that all that's fixed. And then we're doing one push like the end of the day today. When we stopped, big push, team gets everything. We let them know, hey, if you run into anything, but we basically do that triple check. It's a pure TDD flow, because usually it's, hey, we've experienced a bug or we've experienced just UX friction, which is just a different case, different kind of bug, really.
Now, in reality, we kind of took some shortcuts when we originally made this because we were less concerned about things like the design system. We were less concerned about like the future of functionality. We had like a burning problem that we wanted to solve. And so now we're starting to have to go backwards a little bit. And we were just talking about this today, like the fact that we didn't have user story mapping. These things kind of were unclear. I had a different workflow or need versus for what your vision was. And so it kind of brings it back to why the process for cause of a kind works when we're building for other people. Why do we begin with the user story mapping and typically begin with a proper design phase when we're going to hand it off to an engineer on the team to kind of control the narrative? So my question to you is, if you're an engineer building a product, you have a little bit of a design sense, you're just kind of trying to get the product to market as we did. At what point is it valuable to maybe go back and do the user story mapping with other folks, maybe even with a potential customer? At what point do you go back and create a solid design system? At what point do you go back and build your original wireframe or your UI design kit, the things that we skipped to try and just move faster in the beginning because you were doing it all on your own. Are we going to go back and do those things, or like how do we just carry on from here and assume that you're going to turn this into a tech company where there's a team that has to take this on from you?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is I had a design system as I was going when I first built it, and then we've built it with some of our team members, and because I didn't really codify that extremely well, like sometimes we would use a Figma, but nowadays I think increasingly it's a little bit different than that. I didn't craft it as carefully as I should have because it was very much an MVP. Now, what I usually do is I start to see some of that drift. I think a lot of the drift has happened not because people were making decisions, but because agents were making some design decisions, like we
Sure.
noticed. So what I usually start to do is I'll scan, like I did a scan of the whole code base and was like, hey, who's not using the sanction button component? How many different components do we have that are doing different things? I need a unified component for that with a unified look and feel. And then I started going from there. So I'm sort of whittling the design system into place as we go. And I'm finding that. And there are things that I'm punting on that I'm just not sure about yet. For example, we've talked about some of the buttons. There were things about I had like the success and the error, but now we have some tertiary actions and I'm not totally sure what those should look like. But that's okay. I'm just kind of stripping them down, making sure it's clear what they do. I'm not, getting into a color hodgepodge like we were talking about. I'm kind of keeping it there. But there's a lot of decisions to make. What am I not doing? I'm not going back and redesigning the whole thing. That is a surefire way to not launch. And I've seen many, many clients design and design and design. And I want to be very, very careful that I'm not using that as like an excuse to not launch the product.
Totally
I'm super worried that I've seen that happen where you get cold feet at the end, and it really doesn't have to be the most perfect design system. Look, we use great products every day with terrible design systems. The key, I think, is not to overdo it. It's better to have a simpler design system than a bad one. And bad design, I'd say, is when you just overcomplicate, which is why I'm saying when it comes to, hey, I don't know exactly what my button colors are going to be we chose to go with a more simplified outline design and text. So it's like, hey, it's clear what it does. I'm not making a big stance on the design yet for this, but it's not confusing. And I think that's kind of the most important point. And the same thing goes for roles. My critical piece here is I don't want a role, like a client role, to be able to see something like financial data, because our product definitely blends those two. So like having really strong tests around that is really important, and really, really good code around that that's very clear and easy to read is really important to me. But I'm not going to go back and necessarily like rewrite all those user journeys. I think we will eventually as the product gets more complex. But the most important thing is really the visibility of certain types of data. I think that's kind of where my bar is right now, is not so much trying to get them to have the perfect user flow yet, but the most important thing is that they're not seeing things they absolutely should not be able to see.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with that approach. I think one of the other valuable things that we accomplish when we come together is we can talk at length about business challenges. So like today we made decisions about attending conferences, making another hire, the potential forecast of losing some customers, and what are we going to do? Like just the full equation, instead of just typing all day long through the Slack machine. When we come together while we're doing this, we're doing 10 other things at the same time. That is the thing that I kind of miss about going to an office. Like you can have sidebar conversation while you're getting your busy work done with your coworker right next to you, talking about a problem, as you're talking with your manager, as you're talking with the sales team. Like the ability to be together and get stuff done kind of feels like almost like simultaneous, like a superhuman function that we left back. So like raise your hand if you work from home every day. It's just you and your computer. And so while you might have exposure to the team on Slack, you can only have like one Slack message at a time. Yes, I could shift through many messages and that's fine. You can have a bunch of phone calls, but this is like a one-to-one action. When we're together, I'm working, you're working, we're working together.
Right.
And so 3 things are happening at once simultaneously. The collaboration is incredibly helpful to the business. And so like, I wonder if you feel the same. Like, do you miss an in-person experience? Do you think about an office space for us and having a centralized place to like once or twice a week, like actually get together in person and make progress. Like, what do you think about working together? Is it beneficial?
I think so. And I'm a big remote worker. There's no, you can't put a price because I lived in both worlds, right?
Me
My
too.
first child was born pre-COVID, years before COVID, and my second child was born, and I was commuting to the city every
Uh-huh.
day. I was out. I had to catch an 8 o'clock train, so I
Uh-huh.
was out the door by like 7:30 in the morning, and I wasn't home till 8 o'clock at night most of the time. And now it's so funny. My third child is here, and I see them grow through everything, and
Uh-huh.
I cherish that. And even my second child, I saw a lot more of her life than I did my first child because I was at work. And I think to myself, what a privilege, because every generation that came before us did not get to see it. Everybody went to work. They went to work. That was it.
All men at least,
Uh,
or most men.
I would say, at least for my family, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
so they were at work the whole time. I know, like, my mom worked part time, or so she could be home with us. She was a nurse, so my dad worked nights. It was, he had a different job. So I think about that as like, wow, that's privilege. But there's also the double edged sword of, you go upstairs, you go to the bathroom, you go to have. There's sometimes you want to just be in work mode even through that, because like, hey, I just, you're thinking about something,
Right.
especially for this type of job. It's cognitive, and I think it's honest to say that there are times when you're like, I just don't want to step out of the work mode. Like, I want to
Totally.
just really quick grab a bite to eat, but I'm going to be thinking the whole time. Maybe I'm going to bring, like, at
Totally.
work, I used to bring my laptop to lunch,
Yeah,
and
me
I'd be
too.
like,
Sure.
I'm
Of
cranking
course.
away while I ate. And so there's sometimes, like, a day like today is really nice because I needed to just, like, we needed to stay in the zone for the whole day. And it was like, hey, we knew that if we got a full day like this, we would get a lot more done than if we tried to like carve out little hours here, and we just pushed all the meetings out. And it was like, hey, we're just going to have a really collaborative session. So yeah, dude, the magic happens when people come together. There's no doubt about that. I think remote companies are here to stay. There's no doubt that the cost savings, there's a million benefits to being home with your family, but sometimes you got to balance it out.
You definitely lose a little, what is it, je ne sais quoi, a little swagger, a little like, it's very hard to make forward progress on a project that doesn't really exist in the world yet. It's one thing to work remotely on cause of a kind every day. We run this agency, everybody's got their role, everything's comfortable. Great. It's another thing to be building a piece of software where, like, truly it would be great to put a team in a boardroom and run it Scrum style. Everybody's got sticky notes and knows exactly what they're doing on a daily basis. When you're trying to build something novel or greenfield from the beginning and everybody's working from a remote perspective, you get little bite sizes of the expectation. You get little like snippets of the whole picture. And so I do find that coming together collaboratively is allowing us to build something brand new. Now we come together collaboratively to just like talk ad nauseum about the business, the cause of a kind version business, but we spent a good majority of today working on fin forecasting product we're trying to release. I don't think we would have been able to get as much done as we did today if we were not together in the rooms. For me, that's like big signal that coming together as we're trying to release this this product to market, we should probably come together at least on a more regular cadence, more than just once a month as we
We try
normally
once a
do.
month. Yeah, we wanted to do twice a month. That was really the main goal. I think was every 2 weeks to come together like that. I think that we got to stick to it. It's hard to stick to the schedule though. You wake up in the morning and you got your pajamas on sometimes.
It's super hard to stick to it. But I think for anybody that's out there and kind of just watching a day in the life, you know, I came to Mike's house today. It takes me about 30 minutes to get from my house to Mike's house. What a valuable day. Like we're lucky to be so close together. Like I'm replacing a 2-hour commute to an office in New York City with a 30-minute drive. What a joy.
Right,
Like
to the
that's
house.
freaking
Yeah.
easy to do just occasionally. And so what we get accomplished with that time, it's not like we're just coming together to just have a tea party over here. Like there really is progress being made towards our goals. So, dude, just a quick check-in. This is one of the shorter episodes that we'll do, but see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.